But Superfly did generate a larger group taking that on. But was it a reflection of society that they picked up in the movie? Or was it them forecasting where we ought to be? Now, I don't know how many of you are old enough, but everybody bought a leather coat as a shaft came out.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's real.
Yeah.
You know, so,
Well, does art imitate life, or does life
yeah,
imitate art?
yeah. Yeah, okay.
And I think that can it be both? That's sort of how I feel sometimes, you know? I mean, I have this, you know, Jim Brown, I will never meet a more intimidating person than Jim Brown. Everybody told me before I met him, they said, he's gonna ask you questions that there's no answer to. And depending on how you answer them, will determine whether he actually will go through with the interview. So I drove up to his house in the Hollywood Hills. I got attacked by his dog. The maid came out and had to call the dog off. And we sit down, we get the camera set up, and he said, okay, before we start, I'm gonna ask you one question. I said, what is that? What is black? And I was like, yeah, that was my reaction, you know. And I was like 25 years old, 26 years old when I was doing that interview. And man, I fumbled for an answer, and I didn't get it right, you know. And I finally said, you know, I threw out a bunch of things. And finally I said, you know, Jim, it occurs to me there's really not an answer to this question. And if you're looking for an answer that will, you know, convince you should give me this interview, I guess I should just pack up and leave now. And then he was like, roll camera. And every day of my life since then, I did that interview in June of 1996, June or July of 1996. I think about that every day. What is black? What does it mean to be black? What are we? And then the more I study film, the older I get, the more I realize that film and mass media has been telling us what we are, which is based on this ideology of white supremacy, which has all been used to justify, first it was used to justify slavery, then it was used to justify a war to keep slavery, then it was used to justify the destruction of Reconstruction, then it was used to justify Jim Crow. I don't know for sure what black is. I know who I am.
As it relates to people, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
Because we can always just say it's the absence of right. Because I've always been concerned that why you just say people of color if you don't say people of non-color. Those two things have to go together. But on the other hand, during the 60s, in the late 60s and early 70s, we spent a lot of time dealing with that question related to art. And we functionally said that for something to be black art, it had to be by, for, and about black people, specifically. And if it was outside of those parameters, then it wasn't black art. So if you're an artist and you're drawing apples, you just happen to be black, you just draw an apple. But if it has some relationship to people, to cause, to connected relationships, then that's how we define it. Now whether that's right or wrong is not the issue. The issue was that you had a whole lot of thinkers and creative people sitting down to determine what it was that we were to become and what it is that we should be in terms of telling our stories. 1940, Langston Hughes was invited to California to work on film. He went out to California, they were doing The Green Pastures and then another film, I can't remember the name of it right now. And he came back and he wrote a note on commercial theater. It says you take them out blues and gone, you sing them on Broadway, you sing them in Hollywood Bowls, you mix them up in symphonies until they don't sound like me. You take them spirituals and gone, you put me in Macbeth and in Carmen Jones and all kind of swinging Mikatos and everything but what's about me. But someday somebody's gonna stand up and talk about me, sing about me, put on plays about me, black and beautiful.